Everybody say yeah. In the jungle. Hit it.
Happening there? What are they trying to do in Al Jazeera USA?
Well, I think the American Spectator put it very well. This is a $500 million Trojan horse for terror TV. And just along with the rest of the domestic liberal media, Al Jazeera is going to pose on a mask of objectivity. They're hiring so-called investigative reporters now at all of these bureaus, and they're going to have an expansive reach into American homes. And I think it's incumbent upon those of us who are very familiar with how Al Jazeera abroad has cheerleaded for terror that has taken American lives, that they know who these people side with.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
There are very few people in the lapdog media who want to take Michelle Obama on. It isn't merely the statements that she's made in the past, and I think that you and I and a few others during the course of the 2008 campaign stepped up to the plate to talk about all of her disparaging remarks about America, the remarks and the rhetoric that earned her the moniker, in my words, of the bitter half of the Obama administration. But now, over the last 4 years, we have seen not just actions, not just words that are troubling, but actions and behavior and taxpayer-subsidized behavior. It's the cronyism that she has been linked to. It's the junk science that she has used to use this, her bully pulpit to bully food corporations and parents and schools.
It's now my great duty to promote the Tea Party.
Get ready to Tea Party!
April 15th, all across the country, citizens are standing up.
Here in D.C., what I'm covering in Lafayette Park, tomorrow morning, 1 million tea bags will be delivered by like 9 a.m.
Fox on top of tea parties, full steam ahead.
Americans outraged over unfair and crippling taxes.
How to get involved in the hundreds of Tea Party protests.
Not happy with how the government is spending your tax money and taking from you in tax money? You're not alone.
Angry taxpayers are going online and attending tea parties.
How about you? Would you go to one of these tea parties?
You know, it is unlike anything we've ever seen before, at least in recent history.
Hundreds of thousands of outraged Americans may turn out.
We know of at least 500 cities.
Hundreds of towns and cities.
Hundreds of these tea parties.
Now we're talking about 500 cities tomorrow.
We are tracking 760 cities.
Look at all of them. That's where they're expected to be tomorrow.
Now more evidence that they're just getting bigger and bigger.
It's touched a nerve in American
people at a ground, a grassroots level, are fed up.
It is a grassroots movement.
The big question will be whether or not the mainstream media will cover it.
The mainstream media is not reporting on them.
Will the mainstream media cover these tea parties? I think they may be forced to.
I've seen the other networks kind of mention them, but in a mocking way.
Yeah, because they don't understand.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Okay, well, people are mad.
A couple of tweets on Twitter. I think this could be the start of a real revolution.
It may end in a revolution.
Taking a stand at the Alamo, citizens revolt against more taxes.
Sean Hannity is getting 8,000 people in Atlanta.
Sean Hannity is going to be in Hotlanta.
Sean is on the scene with Newt Gingrich, Joe the Plumber,
Rick and Bubba, Mike Huckabee, Neil Bortz, and a special performance by singer John Rich.
Let's take a look at all the hit shows here at Fox that are going to be covering the tea parties.
Neil Cavuto, he's live in Sacramento. Glenn Beck in San Antonio.
It's powerful Tea Party coverage.
I'm going to one. Are you going to be at one of these?
I'm covering one.
When these people are going to the tax tea party, and I've said that there's the taxes,
by the way.
Well, I'm just attending.
Well, Fox isn't sponsoring any of this stuff. We're just realizing there are a lot of people across the country who are not happy with.
There's a big difference between covering something and promoting it.
April 15th, as Tea Party sweep the nation on tax day, we're there with total, fair, and balanced network coverage, live.
This administration has changed the direction of the economy towards more government
and less private enterprise. That's what's happened, and that's what these people are protesting. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is not a sham, and it is not a fraud. It's now my great duty to promote the Tea Party.
A new report showing poor families in the United States are not what they used to be. Now, many poor families have homes with cable TV, cell phones, computers, you name it, much, much more. I'm just going to give our viewers a quick run-through of what items poor families in America have. 99% of them have a refrigerator. 81% have a microwave. 78% have air conditioning. 63% have cable TV. 54% have cell phones. 48% have a coffee maker. I'm not surprised, they're only about $10. 38% have a computer. 32% have more than 2 TVs. 25% have a... This, sir, Mr. Rector, is very different from what it was just a few years ago, isn't it?
No, actually what you see is that the living standards of the poor have increased rather steadily for the last 30 years, and in fact the poverty report has not accurately reflected their living conditions really for several decades. Part of the reason that when you look at the actual living conditions of the 43 million people that the census says are poor, you see that in fact they have all these modern conveniences. If you ask them, did your family have enough food to eat at all times during the last year, the overwhelming majority will say yes.
The medical examiner's report said Garner died from compression of the neck and compression of the chest. That sounds more like death by choking than death by chocolate. You know what I'm talking about. The NYPD patrol guide defines a chokehold as any pressure to the throat or windpipe which may prevent breathing or reduce intake of air. Well, listen to one expert explain why this case isn't that.
I would not use the term chokehold. As a martial artist student, I wouldn't use that term.
Go on, Sensei.
If you go for the trach or what's called an air choke or the windpipe, you can literally kill somebody. That's illegal by every police department standard. So the definitions, it may sound technical, but it really isn't in this case, is it?
No, it is, Mr. Miyagi. Respectfully.
Republicans, they're always looking for the enemy within the government. The government's always the bad guy. It's Obamacare. It's Benghazi. It's the IRS. It's Fast and Furious. I mean, the list, it goes on and on. It's multiple choice. Today, there's a new boogeyman for the Republicans. It's the Bureau of Land Management. Republicans are now absolutely obsessed with this federal government agency. They claim that the BLM is just out of control. They don't know how to do things. The new movement against this government agency is being led by none other than Sean Hannity. These jokers can't get enough airtime. Hannity's shameful, and that is exactly what it is. It's not journalism in any sense of the word. It is shameful coverage of a law-breaking rancher named Cliven Bundy, and it has literally put the Bureau of Land Management in the crosshairs of sniper rifles.
There is major concern that the federal government could be eyeing yet another massive land grab. This time, it's northern Texas. Now, the state's Attorney General Greg Abbott is warning that the BLM wants to seize over 90,000 acres of land near the Red River, close to the border of Oklahoma. There is shocking new video of the destruction left behind by the Bureau of Land Management after it took over Cliven Bundy's ranch. According to online reports, a former Nevada sheriff claims that his sources inside the federal government say that the Bureau of Land Management may be quietly planning to raid the Bundy ranch. Frankly, I thought there was a lack of proportionality here by the government and snipers and surrounding your ranch and taking your cattle. None of it made any sense, and I think there's got to be a more peaceful way. Do you worry that, in fact, they may kill either your dad or somebody in your family?
Is there any doubt Sean Hannity is a huge Cliven Bundy supporter? Hannity has used his show as a platform to let this lawbreaker talk down the federal government numerous times.
Harry, get your army out of Nevada. Get your army away from my ranch and off Clark County public land and keep it out. And if they come, we'll deal with them tonight. Every county sheriff across the United States disarm the federal bureaucrats. Take the federal United States bureaucrats' guns away.
I do break federal laws, evidently, if they're really laws. These feds, I don't recognize their jurisdiction or authority, so no, I wouldn't go with them.
None of those comments were ever challenged on Fox News, especially not by Hannity. Cliven Bundy has now appeared on Hannity's show 7 times. His airtime on Fox News has now topped 53 minutes. Let's get this all straight here, folks. The welfare freeloading rancher who refuses to pay his fees to the federal government is complaining about black people on government assistance. I think it's important to point out just who brought this freeloading racist rancher into the national spotlight. Well, it's promotional hack Sean Hannity. Just last week, Sean Hannity was ready to go stand alongside Bundy to protest the federal government the next time they show up.
I fear, guys, this is not over. I would take Harry Reid's admonition, warning seriously. And if I was scheduled to be out there tonight, if this didn't end this weekend, if they come back, I'll be out there with you.
No plane to go in, Sean? Come on. This isn't the first questionable human being that Sean Hannity has supported on his program. Let's see, there's the racist, gun-toting, hard-rocking Ted Nugent. Nugent has admitted that, hey, he's a friend of the show. Then there was this guy named George Zimmerman. Remember him? Hannity used his show as a platform to support someone who was responsible for the killing of an unarmed teenager. And last week on this program, I asked Hannity to come out and defend this image. What would motivate an American citizen to take a sniper rifle and to take up that position against federal agents who are doing their job? Hannity, that's who you're supporting, but you're too stupid to know it. He hasn't come out and disclaimed it. He won't. Sean Hannity won't defend this image because he's admitted that he's played a role in this scene.
In my mind, there's no doubt the fact that so many people showed up to support you, and I would even argue a little bit that the media coverage that myself and some other people have given to this case played a part in this, because none of it made sense.
So apparently Sean Hannity thinks laws are served buffet style, and that you can pick and choose the ones that you like best. The ones that you don't like, you don't have to abide. Well, that's not going to sit well with Fox's immigration/healthcare law expert pundit, a Mr. Sean Hannity.
You only believe we should obey the laws that you want to obey. You don't, that's it? Obey the laws that you like. No. That's all? Why don't you join with me, Juan, and say everybody should obey the law? Tell me how the president can unilaterally pick and choose what parts of the law he's going to uphold at whatever time he chooses.
I mean, the guy's not even wearing a cowboy hat. The president doesn't get to choose.
You know, I will say this, to be very honest with you, most of the protesters, despite this gentleman here, most of the people have been fairly reasoned, calm, and willing to talk because, as you know, we have done our best to give everybody a voice here. Despite this guy, do you have an opinion other than that?
Fox lies.
Yes, sir. No, that's the only two words you know. Very good. That's the only two words he apparently knows. We have done our best to give everybody a voice here. Despite this guy, do you have an opinion other than that?
Fox lies.
Yes, sir. No, that's the only two words you know. Very good. That's the only two words.
285 for Romney, 253 for Obama. I have Romney carrying all the McCain states, plus taking Indiana, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, New Hampshire, and Colorado.
Look, I believe that, and I've said this before, there is no chance that Obama will get reelected. Zilch, none, zip, none.
no-go zones.
No-go zones.
So there are no-go zones.
No-go zones.
No-go zones.
No-go zone means
The no-go zone.
No-go zones.
750 no-go zones.
The no-go zones.
No-go zones.
No-go zones. No-go zones.
No-go zones.
No-go zones.
Will there be no-go zones here? Are they there now?
No-go zones.
We keep talking about the no-go zones in France here.
Are these no-go zones?
they live in the no-go zones. The no-go neighborhoods
And no-go zone.
No-go zones.
No-go zones.
No-go zones.
The no-go zones.
No-go zones.
These 751 no-go areas.
No-go zones. No-go zones.
No-go zones.
No-go zone. You have no-go zones.
A no-go zone. These are no-go zones. In these no-go zones, no-go zones, no-go zones, no-go zones is no-go zones. The no-go zones, the no-go zones, no more no-go zones.
No-go zones.
I think they've reached critical mass, frankly. And I've said this before. I think Europe is finished.
You know, I will say this, to be very honest with you, most of the protesters, despite this gentleman here, most of the people have been fairly reasoned, calm, and willing to talk because, as you know, we have done our best to give everybody a voice here. Despite this guy, do you have an opinion other than that?
Fox lies.
Yes, sir? No,
Fox lies.
that's the only two words you know. Very good. That's the only two words he apparently knows.
Jeff,
So
one more thing, Jeff,
we
real
try
quick.
to be nice. That's all I can do.
Jeff, does